All right, well, welcome back to Videos for Algebra with Ms. Sudol. Today, our video is going to be on verbal modeling. So what we're going to do is we're going to first talk about different words that represent some of the operations that we are used to, and then we're going to translate sentences into expressions, and then also expressions into sentences. So you do have your note taker at home, and we are going to start with plus. So we're going to talk about and write down all different words that can translate to meaning plus. So first, we have in addition to. We have some. Also, you might hear increased by. Also, in all. Total. Deposits, like if you're depositing in the bank. Faster than. Added to. Combined. A good old plus. All together. More than. Gains. And above. So those are the majority of the words that you will need in algebra when we're doing verbal modeling. So after the plus or addition, we are going to go down and we'll do the opposite operation, so we'll look at minus. And some of the words are just opposite of what we kind of just talked about. So of course there's minus, subtracted from, less than, withdraw, just like deposits. You can withdraw, right? You're subtracting money out of your bank account. We like deposits better. Take away. Smaller than. Decreased by. Difference. Losses. Fewer than. And below. Back to this side. Okay, I do want to take note. Two of these, it's important that the order matters. So the way that you set up your sentence with less than and subtracted from are going, we have to pay attention to those, because those sometimes can be a little tricky. If you set them up in the wrong order, they mean something completely different. So we will look at examples of those in class, and also when we do a couple examples after we fill out this organizer. All right, so let's look at times. There are going to be fewer for times and for multiplying and dividing. So the first one is times. Next, the product. This one you're going to see a lot. The product of 2 and x, or the product of this and that. So this one's kind of important. Each multiplied by off, as in like a percent off, right? You would multiply twice or double, right? We all know what that means. To double something, you're going to multiply by 2. Threefold, you don't really hear that one often, but I'm going to put it on here. Squared, right? You're going to multiply by itself. Cubed, triple, and half is the interesting one because half actually shows up in both multiplication and division, because you can multiply by a half or you can divide by 2. So that one is the only one that's going to kind of show up in both the multiplication and the division category. All right, well, that's it for the words for multiplication. So we got division coming up next. We, of course, have divided by, quotient. So like product for multiplication, quotient is a very popular one in algebra. Separate. Split. Let's say you were splitting something 4 ways. Per. And of course you got that half in there. And that's it for division. All right, the final one that we're going to look at is equals. So some of the ones for equals, right, we can have equals. We can have the same as. Equivalent to. Yields, that's more of a science term, but still means equals to. Gives. And another kind of big one is. The product of 2 and x is, 16 or what, or so on and so on. Okay, well that pretty much sums it up for the words that we're going to be dealing with or working with during this topic. So if you just want to flip your paper over, we're going to do some examples. All right, mine's a little crooked. I probably should have given this to you sent home, but I just typed it up. So we had a couple examples to go over. So if you want to take a minute and write down maybe number 1. So we're going to go, in the beginning, we're going to go for an algebraic expression. Sorry, I was going to need a minute to write down. So we're going to go from an algebraic expression to write an algebraic expression. We're starting with verbal, we're going to algebraic. I thought I wasn't recording again because I didn't see my guy in the corner, so I got nervous, but we are. All right, so the quotient of m and x squared. Well, if you want to split back over, the quotient means to divide. So right automatically, I'm going to put a division. Okay, we do not want to use this as the division or this as the division, okay? So we need a division bar. The quotient of m and x. So when you have the quotient, whatever comes first is going to be in the numerator. So m, and then the x would be, the x squared would be in the denominator. So x squared. And look at it and read it back. The quotient of m and x squared. All right, next up, 1/2 the cube of a number x. I would say the cube of a number x. So there's a couple ways we can write that too. So we're going to take half the cube. So we can either multiply by a half, and then it's the cube of x, or we can divide the cube of x by 2. So again, that's where that half kind of comes in on both sides. But either one of these are right. Like I said, when we make these expressions or turn the algebraic expressions to verbal, there's going to be many different ways, right? There's a list of words that mean to multiply or divide or subtract, so everybody could have different answers, and that's okay. All right, so this is a big one coming up. This is where you see that less than that I mentioned is a little tricky. When it says 6 less than, the 6, because we're less than 6, has to come in the back. It's not 6 minus, it's minus 6. Okay? The product of a number, well, it's not saying a number, so I'm just going to use x. The number and -2. So the product is multiplied, so -2 times x. Increase, well, we know that means to add, by the 5th power of x. Well, the 5th power of x is x to the 5th. Okay? So again, not too bad. And again, we can all have different things kind of. All right, well, when you're going from a verbal to an algebraic, like we just did, we should all have the same thing. We should all have the same exact algebraic expression. But when you go the other way, they can vary a little bit. So let's look. Write a verbal expression for each algebraic expression. Okay, so I'm going to say the product, because I'm multiplying, the product of n squared and 5, right? So we did this part right here, the product, right? They're multiplying n squared and 5, diminished by 6. And now that I think of it, we didn't even put diminished in the minus. So if you want to take a second, go back, go down here, and we're going to add diminished, because that's a good one. All right. So, and then read it. Does that make sense? Is that what you have? The product of n squared and 5 diminished by 6. Perfect. The next one. So I'm going to say the product of 12 and y cubed divided by 5. The product of 12 and y cubed divided by 5. Perfect. All right, the last one, the last example we're going to look at, number 6. Again, if you need to take a minute to write it down. So we have, I'm going to say, the square root of 7 plus the product of 3 and p. All right? The square root of 7 plus the product of 3 and p. All right, well, take a second if you need to and kind of refresh on some of those words, and we will be working on this when I see you in class. All right.